Hi and welcome back to our channel. It's come down to, because we're quarantined or half quarantined, I don't even know anymore. But anyway, it's like, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. So I decided on this recipe today. It's called an American goulash. And it's usually made with, of course, the ground beef and tomatoes and etc. I'll show you that. I'll tell you the recipe as we go along and also put it in the bottom. People will say it's not a real goulash. Well, everybody has their way of doing things with what they have in the house. And I'm going to show you an easy, low-carb, gluten-free, dairy-free goulash that is substituting the macaroni for vegetables. So let's get started. I got the hamburger meat on the stove, and we'll start with that. Okay, my ground beef is partially done, and I've been chopping it up with my handy dandy spatula that I've had forever. I'm sure you all have a favorite utensil in your kitchen. I'm going to add to the meat and cook it up together half of a large onion. I use sweet onions, it's up to you. And one red bell pepper. Now the good thing about being a good cook is to prep your vegetables, etc. beforehand. That way you have them all chopped up. You're not over there chopping while the meat's burning on the stove. And put it in bowls or paper plate or whatever as to what goes in the recipe first. In other words, I could put all the vegetables in the container that I just had for the onions and red peppers, but they don't all go in at the same time. So first comes the bell pepper and the onions, and then that'll save a lot of stress when you're trying to cook. I'm going to cook these up and I'll be back in a second. Okay, it's time to start seasoning our meat and vegetables. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. I'm not going to add any salt yet because I don't know how much salt is in the ingredients. So I'm not going to add that till the end when I taste it. We want some black pepper. Let's say a teaspoon or less. Put a couple bay leaves in there. And we got to do our garlic. Now I use the, even though I have fresh, sometimes I don't feel like cutting up the fresh. So I use the jarred garlic. Read your label on the jar. It usually tells you what equals 1 clove of garlic. I usually just put a tablespoon in because we like garlic so much. So we're going to get this cooked up a little bit. Remember, you don't want to add your garlic at the beginning because it'll burn. But now we're starting to season our meat. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 teaspoons of paprika. Even though most of the American goulash recipes I found do not require paprika, I feel that it kind of leaves out the original idea behind goulash. Now if you notice, I haven't added any olive oil to this, and I didn't see any reason why, because the hamburgers got, well, most of your grocery store hamburger has a lot of moisture in it. So I'm going to come back in a second and show you what we do next. Okay, now we're ready to add 1 cup of beef broth, gluten-free of course, and we're going to add 1/4 cup of water. Then, to make it an easy recipe, I keep getting stuck on the pan, marinara sauce. Now, I spent some time in the grocery store looking at the ingredients. Of course, if you're gluten-free, dairy-free, that is your life, reading ingredients. So we're going to put that in. Next we have a tablespoon of soy sauce and a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, my secret ingredients. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And of course, since we're not using a whole can, we're going to freeze it for the next recipe. Sorry about the clanking. Whoa. And we're going to stir that around. Get all the goodies off the bottom of the pan. Get all the flavors going. Now, I like diced tomatoes in my Italian foods. So I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes. These are Hunt's. Now it's going to seem a little runny, but most of your goulashes are soups or stews. So they're kind of made to be runny, especially if you're adding the macaroni. Now I could add gluten-free macaroni to this, but it wouldn't be low carb. So next we're going to add about a teaspoon of caraway seeds. This is optional if you don't have them. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. And we're going to add, this is what makes it low carb, is zucchini instead of the noodles. So I'm going to add, this is 2 zucchinis that I diced up. Zucchini is really, they're a squash, but like tofu, they would soak up all the flavors that you're working with. So when you eat it, it will taste like this tomato sauce. So I use it in especially Mexican soups. I put it in there and it soaks up all the flavors of the dish, plus it's low carb. So I'm going to put the lid on this, turn it down to a low simmer, and let it simmer for a while. I'll be back. Okay, this is cooked for about 45 minutes. I had to wait for the zucchini to get done. And what you do is you test it. If your fork can go in really easily, it's done. Now some of you may like the crunch. Here's a bay leaf. Let me get that out. The crunch of the vegetables, if not quite soft, but we prefer the soft. Now I'm going to plate it up and show you what it looks like. Okay, it's done, and this makes a great cold weather dinner. And it actually turned out more like a soup, which is fine with us. I'm going to put some in the bowl. Lots of vegetables, low carb. And if you don't have marinara sauce, I'll put it in my recipe at the bottom, what you can substitute for that, because not everybody has it on their shelves. I'm going to I have some parsley here. Use your scissors to cut it up to make your plate real, or your bowl real pretty. Hope you enjoyed this recipe as much as we're going to enjoy eating it. And I hope to see you next time. This is where you could put cheese on it if you want, but of course I can't have it, but my husband can, so I always keep it in the fridge for him to sprinkle on the top. I'll see you next time. Bye!